I just want to ask everybody a question, especially those who are American descendants of slavery. Uh, if you're listening to the news as of late, right? These are articles that are coming out, and as well as interviewers and journalists who are talking about this, right? And I find it and I'm trying to see if you guys find it interested too, or it's interesting as well. And that is, why are we okay as American descendants of slavery, Black Americans, all these other terms that we're given, but I prefer ADOS, American descendants of slavery. Why are we okay with these reparations talks concerning Israel receiving reparations? Right, Piers Morgan. You're not familiar. Piers Morgan as Professor Marandi, who's a professor in Iran, right? Who's on social media all the time, right, doing interviews. All right, and who has a background in war, peace talks, and things of that nature. I can't remember the exact position that he's in, or that he used to be in. Right, I think he dealt with like nuclear negotiations or something like that. Right. So anyway, he was asked by Piers Morgan, right? This Iranian professor. He was asked, should Iran pay Israel reparations for the damage that was done to them? Right? And he had a response, which I'm not going to go into. And then I was looking at another interviewer, another podcast, or another person who was talking about this subject. And they were talking about how Iran is asking the U.S. to pay reparations. So I just find it interesting that none of these individuals, nobody thought that this was an impossibility for Iran to receive reparations from the U.S. or for Israel to receive reparations from Iran. I didn't hear the typical response that I'm used to hearing from those who object to ADOS receiving reparations, right? It's typically when we say, oh, we need reparations, it's, oh, well, y'all can't save the money. Y'all don't know how to do it. Y'all are just going to give it back to the white man. We don't need reparations. You're asking for a handout. These are all the type of responses that we typically get when we talk about reparations. It's some type of, how we're going to do it. It's impossible. You're going to bankrupt America. We're no longer slaves. All this type of stuff is the typical response, right? But when they talk about reparations for every other country, Israel, Iran, and then keep in mind, they're still in the midst of this war, right? We're still in the midst of this war with Iran. It's a ceasefire right now. We're in day 47, day 48 at this point. Not even 2 months in. And we're still within this war. The war isn't even over yet. And yet they're talking, in the midst of the war, they're talking about reparations. Iran is asking for $270 billion as far as the peace deal, right? For their reparations. And are we okay with them just willy-nilly talking about reparations and like really talking about giving these people money? Some people saying they may do a poll, do a tax or something, or through taxes on the ships that's coming through the Strait of Hormuz. And that's how they're going to get reparations. They're really talking about how they're going to give these people money, right? And it's not like how we're going to pay. It's not an issue of how they're going to pay for it. What they're saying, I think the U.S. said they're not going to do direct cash payments, that they may consider the polling thing, or being taxing the ships that are coming in. It's not even an issue, right? It's very quick. We're only 2 months in, not even 2 months in this war, 47, 48 days in. And they are talking about how to pay Iranians reparations, right? We've been asking for reparations for 161 years. And it's like, this is what Obama said. Well, how would the Indians feel? And how would the Asians feel? They just got to the country. How would all these other immigrant Americans feel if you got reparations. That wouldn't be fair to them. Like this is the type of this is first supposedly from the first our first black president, right? This is his response when he was asked by Ta-Nehisi Coates, or in the article with Ta-Nehisi Coates concerning reparations, right? And so it's like, why is this such a problem when it comes to us? It's such a unfathomable thing, unthinkable, unimaginable thing that black Americans, that American descendants of slavery, that African Americans, that is just, this is something that can't be done, or this is something that's impossible. Y'all are asking too much. It's out of the question. It's like it's like pulling teeth. It's the most impossible thing in the world. But then when anybody else asks for reparations outside the country, it's like, yeah, of course. Yeah, they need to be paid reparations for their damages. But our economic damages, our economic hardships, just ignored, and we're okay with that. Yeah, these are the type of questions, and these are the type of thoughts that go through my mind as I'm looking at the geopolitical landscape, right? And how willing the United States is and these other countries to talk about reparations, but when we talk about it, it's just not a thing that can be done. Which is I just can't. Can somebody help me figure out why are we okay with this? Why are we okay with listening to other countries talking about reparations? Oh, well, Palestinians deserve reparations. All these other people deserve reparations. But when it comes to us, we don't deserve it, right? We built the largest economic country, or the largest, the wealthiest country, rather. We built this country, and our ancestors with their labor, with free labor, right? We got on our own. We got freed in 1865, and then we had Reconstruction, where we were rebuilding. That was taken away. Mass incarceration, convict leasing, redlining, white supremacy, racism, all the stuff that follows that. All this stuff was done to us economically. It can be tracked. We have the number. We know what the down payment is. We're asking for $20 trillion, which can be done. And it's not like an impossibility. But it's just like, oh no, we can't do that. Right? It's impossible to do that. But 270 billion to Iran. Yeah, nobody's talking about how that's going to bankrupt the country. Not one person has said, how are we going to pay for the reparations for the Iranians? Not one person. Like, why is it such an easy conversation for these other people? But when it comes to us, even with our own people, it's like, we can't do nothing with that money. All we're going to do is give it back to the white man. Negroes need to stop begging. It's 2026. We're not in slavery. This is the conversation we get from our own people. Y'all just being lazy. Y'all just need to work harder. Y'all just missing all the opportunities. All these things never happen with any other group except for us, because we've adopted the trope of white people. This is something that they put on us, and we bought it, and we thought it was our own original idea. That's not our idea. About us being lazy, and about us not taking opportunities, about us not spending the money right, knowing that these are all the excuses that they have for us not to receive reparations. But we've adopted it like it was our own thought. No, it's not. A lot of our thoughts come from white people, but we just don't know the origin of it. All this talk about black capitalism, that's a white construct. Do you know the first time the word black capitalism was used in America was from a white president? So when people sit back, and I've seen an interview with Claude Anderson and a comedian, I can't remember his name, from 85 South. And they were talking about black capitalism. Is it possible? Should we be practicing it? Why neither one of them talked about the origin of the phrase? Black capitalism came from Richard Nixon in 1968, where he said he introduced the phrase in the speeches called Bridges to Human Dignity. He introduced this phrase. That was the first time it was ever mentioned, ever thought of. You notice Martin Luther King, Kwame Ture, definitely who was against black capitalism. And even had books that came out in 1971 called, that spoke about the myth of black capitalism in 1971, right? But we're talking about it today like it's some new thing. And it was in that book, I can't remember the author's name. I think his last name was Hutchinson. But he talked about how black capitalism is a trap, and it's not something that we shouldn't even engage in. This was in 71. It just got introduced in 1968 by the white man, and it received heavy criticism from those who knew the game. Right? Black capitalism is something that we should not be practicing because it's not our idea. And it's not even, we can't really participate in capitalism in a way that our white counterparts participate in capitalism. It's not even it's not a real thing. It was there to take place of the civil rights era and the fight for civil rights. That's what black capitalism's job is. For you to focus on getting the bag, right? We're in the getting the bag culture. For us to focus on getting the bag and ignore politics. Are you seeing how most of the time that we're talking about getting the bag and making a lot of money and being a millionaire, in that same conversation, we're not talking about politics. And if somebody were to bring up politics as a means to be able to get resources, you're problematic because you're depending on the white man to fund you. You're depending on a white man to give you money. You're depending on the white infrastructure that's the problem. You're depending on them. No, we got to do it ourselves. We just need to come together and get some money. We need to come together. We just need to collect our money together. I haven't heard any other racial group say, oh, we just need to come together and collect our money. Why? Because they not necessarily just depending on themselves. They're depending on working with the government in order for them to have their grants, in order for them to have their SBA loans, in order for them to have their businesses that are wide open for all these people. It's not a coincidence why you have Asians doing nails. It's not a coincidence where you have East Africans doing parking lots. It's not a coincidence that you have Indians and stuff owning Dunkin' Donuts and buildings. These are avenues that were created by the civil rights movement that they took advantage of, but they closed the door on us to do these things, and they opened the door for them. And it looks like, oh, look at them just be like the Indians. No, these folks just came to the country in the 60s. Before that, they didn't have any movement. But because of the Civil Rights Bill of 1965, you had one in 1964, you had one in 1960. You had several civil rights bills. Was the second round. The first round was in the 1860s, right? First civil rights bill was major civil rights bill was the Civil Rights Bill of 1866, right? So on the second round of civil rights, which included, matter of fact, it was the Immigration Act, I believe, in 1965, right? Which was on the back of the Civil Rights Bill, right? Which allowed these immigrants to get treated like normal Americans. And you get treated like normal Americans, guess what? You get normal American stuff like corporations, you get institutions that you're able to build, you get businesses that you're able to build and that are able to flourish. This is what normal American life looks like for everybody else, except for us. Right? We're not defective as a people. There's nothing wrong with inherently and wrong with us. Just black people, their culture. No, it's not our culture. That's what's wrong with us. Our culture is no worse than any other immigrant group. But they have you. Oh well, the black man and the black woman. No, we don't have no issue. It's no real issue with the black man and the black woman. With the family structure, there's no issue with the family structure. Take all that out the window. Well, the issue is we just don't know how to unify. No, we know how to unify. Well, the issue is the government is blocking us from succeeding as a group. Individually, yeah, you're gonna have millionaires, you're gonna have 100,000aires, you're gonna have multimillionaires, and you're gonna have a small set of billionaires. A very small group of billionaires, right? The one of the richest men in the country, Robert Smith, venture capitalist, right? That's what he does. He helps other companies, make money. He makes money off them, purchase them, and makes a percentage off of them, things of that nature, right? He's complaining. Now, this is he was the richest man in America. He's second to David Stewart now. But this man is one of the wealthiest black men in the country. And he's able to prove year over year that he can make higher percentages and more money than his white counterparts every year. He's complaining about how he's not able to get the funding that he's asking for. If it's just, once you get to billionaire status and millionaire status, you good, you made it. Why is he complaining? We're the richest country in the world. Why don't we have the richest black person in the world? We're the richest country in the world. Why don't we have the richest black man or black family in the world? Where's the richest black man in the world from? He's not from the United States. The richest black man in the world is from a country that was formed in 1965. When was our country formed? 1776, right? Our country was formed in 1776, and you telling me that, and we've been free for 161 years, 1865. So let's even start from there. So you're telling me from 1865 until 2026 and beyond, that from that time period until now, we don't have the richest black person in the world? In the richest country in the world? You telling me that you combine all the billionaires, the black billionaires in the United States, and it still doesn't equal one man from Nigeria? Or one black man from Nigeria, Aliko Dangote? How does this make sense? If we're not being, it's 2026, we're not being held down, man, you can do whatever you want. If that's the case, the richest black man should be out of America. If that's the case, you shouldn't be able to combine all the black billionaires in America, and then they still don't equal to the richest man in the world, which is Aliko Dangote from Nigeria, a country that was formed in 1965. The math is not mathing. What's wrong with that picture? We're being, obviously, if you do the math, we're being suppressed, obviously. If one of the richest men in America is complaining about not having enough resources, he's a billionaire, or not getting the resources that he deserves based on performance. Now we so-called live in a meritocracy, meaning that you get what you earn by working for it. That's not how it works for us. Well, you just complaining, man. What you gonna do about it? People need to know that it even exists, because people aren't even making these connections. People aren't even making these connections. We're okay with not having the richest black person in the world, from the richest country in the world. Yes, that's a normal thing.